problem with one arm movement training. Now, the message I'm trying to convey in this video is that the different popular training methodologies for working on the movement pattern of the one arm pull-up all seem to have their weaknesses. These can be good to keep in mind as you're going through the one arm pull-up journey and as you're curating different exercises for how to achieve particular goals. So without further ado, let's get started with banded repetitions. Now, regardless of how you set up your resistance band, you'll have one big problem with this methodology, and that's inaccuracy. You're not really sure how much assistance you're getting, and that's that if you set it up correctly so that your main arm is positioned just at the anchor point of the band, and you're either stepping through the band and doing the pull-ups, or you're using the assisting arm right underneath the main arm. And this is important because if you, for example, have your main working arm here and the band is attached to a point here and you're using your assisting arm to help out there, the problem now is that instead of just having one anchor point on the bar, you have two. And so you've removed the stability demands that are inherent with the one arm pull-up. And so for a training methodology that aims to work on the movement pattern of the one arm, this is not ideal at all. But even if you do it in the ideal position, you still have that inaccuracy, imprecision. It's hard to tell how much assistance you're actually getting. Plus over time the band wears down a bit, so there are all of these small little issues that come with it. Then another common tool is the pulley system. Well, for starters, it's kind of clunky, a bit of a hassle to set up. It might take a bit of space in your bag, and if you're not training at the same place every time, you have to carry it around and set it up each time, which can be a bit annoying. But that's like a smaller issue, like the setting it up and having to do all of this before you can actually train. If it would have been a really good system, that wouldn't necessarily have been a big problem. But the problem with the single pulley system is that, let's say you're positioning it at a similar sort of bad anchor position as with the band, right? It's like far away from the main working arm, and you can use your assisting arm to sort of pull down on a sling and provide assistance that way. Well, now we've sort of resolved a bit of the issue with inaccuracy, right? We know how much weight we've loaded through the pulley, so we know how much assistance we're getting. However, once it's off center or it's away from the main working arm, now we've suddenly made it so that there are no stability demands. But let's say that you sort of change this a bit and that you add in a second pulley system. So you can have your main working arm right above your supporting arm, and that pulley goes to another pulley, so that further away you have the weight and you're able to impose stability demands again. That's a good thing, and you know the weight, so it's starting to seem like a pretty good system. But here again we have some issues. I mean, I've tested out a bunch of pulley systems now, and the problem here seems to be that the system is quite unresponsive at times. Maybe it's the way I've set it up, maybe there's something I've done to it that makes it a bit unresponsive, but it seems like a bit of a tricky thing to sort of do properly. With band assisted repetitions, you have variable resistance, whereas with the pulley system here you would have constant resistance. But when it's a bit of a jittery motion, as it seems to be, it sort of responds a bit late. It's a bit strange because you sort of move up and then the resistance sort of lags behind. It's not very obvious from the movement of the weight because it seems to be going somewhat steadily up, but it's like a bit of a jittery motion there, and it sort of makes it a very strange movement. And yeah, like even if you manage to connect yourself to a harness, right, so you're not using any supporting arms, like however you manage to set up this system, I haven't found a way for this to be groundbreakingly good. The best system I've seen for this is probably from Alex Megos' video about how to do the one arm pull-up. So I'll see in the coming weeks and months. Maybe I'll try to make some changes and upgrade my pulley system, and maybe this is a actual god tier way of training the movement pattern of the one arm pull-up. Maybe it actually is the way to go if this works out properly smooth. Connecting yourself to a harness, having constant resistance, or constant assistance I should say, and have that attached in a manner where you're not even using a supporting arm. You have your main working arm either right above pulley number one in a sort of two pulley system, or you manage to make it so that there is no lack of stability demands. And then you would have a pretty wholesome system. But until that, and until you can make it so that it's very smooth, it doesn't seem like this is the ideal option either. And the problem with this also is that, you know, it's somewhat expensive if you're going to buy all the parts and set this up, and it's a bit clunky and like it takes a bit of time to set up and dismember. So now another training approach would be using finger assisted archer pull-ups. This is something I came across quite a while ago, but I haven't really used it much in my training until recently, having tested it out a bit. This is ideal to do on rings because you have better sort of shoulder position and the mechanics are a bit better, I think. But although this also might seem at first like a great idea. This sort of has the worst of both worlds in a way, with still having that inaccuracy if you don't know how much assistance you're getting. And even if you start, like maybe you do 4 fingers of assistance, then 3, then 2, then 1 only on the supporting ring, so to speak, then even though that gives you sort of discrete measure of how much assistance you're getting, it's still very difficult to know how much are you actually helping out. And what if you're training fingers as well, your fingers will get stronger a bit over time, so it's hard to say how much assistance that actually is, right? And additionally, although it's an archer pull-up, so you get, you know, obviously some unilateral activation there, otherwise it wouldn't have been very suitable for this at all. But even though it's an archer pull-up, the problem that we sort of see with this as well is that when you have the supporting hand, it attaches to rings at a similar vertical position, if that makes sense, at a similar height. So along the same horizontal line, you'll have both the anchor point for your main working arm and your supporting arm. Since they are at the same height, you're removing the stability demands again. So this movement is not only hard to track, I mean, there are ways to mitigate all of these things and to sort of have all of these movement training methodologies work, right? There are ways to sort of go around it, there are ways to build strength with it, obviously, but none of them seem to be quite ideal because, hey, you don't have stability demands, at least not to the same degree as you do, for example, properly set up banded repetitions, and you also don't really know how much assistance you're getting. And if you're actively training your fingers and doing a lot of climbing and stuff, who knows, might be an even bigger problem then, right? So yeah, it doesn't seem ideal either. Then there's some other training methodologies I've come across and tested out, but that don't seem that prevalent or maybe that popular, that when it comes to movement training would be, for example, using a sling. This is quite similar though to a resistance band. Similar thing with positioning. You don't know how much assistance you're actually getting, but you have constant resistance compared to variable resistance, so I guess that's a little differentiator there. But as long as you have the sling close to the main working arm, ideally right underneath it, I guess, then you would still have stability demands, so at least there's that. Then you have 1.5 arm pull-ups, where I just feel like they're rather clunky and like weird to do. Maybe that's a specific with me, like maybe people generally find them to be quite good, but I find that as you progress down, you go from wrist assisted to forearm assisted to bicep to shoulder assisted 1.5 arm pull-ups, they just become very strange. I mean, forearm assisted are even good, but like bicep and shoulder assisted I feel to be really weird. Either it's me or it's just generally like, I just find it really difficult to give any extra juice and actually get over the bar. Almost seems easier when I do a body weight rep at times. So I don't know if like I'm blocking myself a bit with some of the movements. One thing that seems to be quite alright for this though would be to do a sort of different progression that I've seen Hampton from Hybrid Calisthenics talk about, which is that instead of going to the bicep grip, you just go from sort of cupping your forearm and sort of holding it properly to just placing your hand against the forearm and trying to actively use that hand, the supporting hand, as little as possible. That's quite decent, but again, here you have no idea how much you're actually supporting yourself, even though the nice thing here is that you have stability demands during the movement. And then another one would be uneven pull-ups. So if you have bars at different levels and you use one of them for your supporting arm, the higher one for your main working arm, here you also have the problem of no stability demands, in addition to you not knowing how much you're actually supporting yourself throughout the movement. So as I've been sort of researching these and thinking through, this leaves us in a bit of an awkward place. I mean, on the one hand, it might be similar for a lot of movements we're training in calisthenics. There is no golden machine or apparatus you can use to just suddenly reach the movement. It's sort of a bit of trial and error, a bit of playing around with different exercises and seeing what works for you at different stages. There isn't necessarily a definitive answer to what is right in terms of movement training for a particular stage. But I'd say that the biggest thing would be to test the different methodologies out and to see what sort of works well for you. For example, if you struggle with the initial part of the movement, right, overcoming that critical angle to start curling your body weight up, one way to sort of work around this might be to use banded repetitions, as they give you more assistance at the bottom of the movement, so you more easily can get through that and sort of have a more flowy movement all the way through to sort of get that understanding, that subconscious understanding of how the movement is executed, and then do some more, I guess, isolation type work for overcoming that critical angle specifically. That might be a way to do it, and just generally knowing that there are certain exercises that are good for challenging the stability demands you'll have in the one arm pull up, whereas other exercises are more so good for more accurately knowing how much assistance you're getting. So you can get this combination of, okay, how can I accurately measure the strength output I'm producing and do so in connection with the movement rather than be something completely separate. So yeah, that pretty much seems to be it. There is no ideal solution. There is no exercise that really trumps the others, so all of these variations have some weaknesses, but knowing about these, it's easier to structure a program and sort of gauge what exercises might be more valuable for you at the current time. And yeah, if you have any exercises or any training methodologies I haven't discussed, but that you think have worked well for you, or that you think would be interesting for me to test out, feel free to post them down below in the comments, as I'd love to see what other exercises are out there. At this point, I feel as though I've tried out most of the one-arm pull-up training variations people actively use and get results from, but who knows, there are probably some funky variations hiding somewhere deep down inside the YouTube rabbit hole. So if there is something you guys think could be cool for me to test out, comment it down below. But now for a quick little announcement I think you guys will appreciate.
Now, as a way of thanking you for having reached 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, in addition to me wanting to get to know you guys inside of this community, for the next couple of weeks I'll be offering coaching completely for free. The things I think I could help you out the most with would be training related to the one-arm pull-up, muscle-up, pull-ups generally, as well as in climbing. And also, if you guys have any questions regarding how to make a good training schedule for all that encompasses a lot of different training disciplines, I think that could be something that I'd be able to help with as well. If you have questions outside of this scope, or you just generally want to chat, feel free to also book your slot, as I'd really love to get to know you guys. I mean, I'm looking forward to building a tight-knit group of people that want to see each other succeed when it comes to building elite level skills, elite level strength, and generally level up our capabilities. So if this resonates with you, I'd be honored to have you on one of the calls. And yeah, looking forward to seeing you guys there.
Alright guys, there you have it. If you feel like this video was helpful to you and provided some value, feel free to smash the like button down below. Also, if you like this one, you might enjoy this video that pops up on the screen right now about one-arm hanging, a great exercise to incorporate into your one-arm pull-up training and something that's often neglected. So yeah, feel free to give that a watch, but without further ado, thanks for watching, and as always, remember to keep on training, train what you love, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya guys.